What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Challenge Rivals 3 recap show. I'm Zach Hummel, and I'm joined, as always, by Steve Bilyeu. What's going on, Steve?
Not too much. How you doing?
Yeah, not so much. To be pretty candid, me and Steve both were recording this on a Wednesday night, late night. I couldn't do Thursday, so we both stayed up, watched the episode. So we're gonna get really initial thoughts, some hot takes, hopefully.
Yeah, this is some dedication from us here, being up late night and coming in hot takes. Right after the episode.
Yeah, definitely. I thought this was a pretty good episode. The challenge was good. We had some bar shots, and then at the end of the episode, it kind of let us down. But that's kind of been the status quo this season so far.
Yeah, definitely. It started off great. I had high hopes for it, but the ending wasn't so great. But everything leading up to that was, back to the basics with the challenge of the stuff that we love. But it was too bad that it sort of ended disappointingly, which we'll get into here in a bit.
Yeah. So the episode starts right to a bar scene, and we have three couples who are kind of, I don't know, flirting with each other, feeling each other. We have Corey and Cheyenne. We have Tony and Ashley, who are just match made in heaven. They both are just sexual beings. I think that's what Tony says. Ashley's just a sexual being. That's what Tony is as well. And then we had Devin and Camilla, which I thought was a really weird couple. And you see later in the episode, he tries to calm her down after something happens. And I think that one might be a little more serious than they've led on. But what do you think about those three couples starting off the episode?
Yeah, Camilla and Devin was by far the most shocking one to me. It was hilarious that, we talked about at the end of last episode that Tony was going to be looking to smash his next victim, and that didn't take long for him to get on it. So that was my favorite, seeing Tony and Ashley go at it.
Yeah, they're the only one that really went at it. It seemed like from the cameras. I think Devin and Camilla maybe slept in the same bed, but Tony and Ashley, from what they've shown, they show him taking his boxers off in bed, and she wakes up the next morning pretty much without bottoms on. She throws on a skirt, which I'm sure she's done a million times in her life. And I'll give Tony this. He's a gentleman. He won't kiss and tell. He says nothing happened between me and Ashley when it's pretty obvious. We have videotape that you smashed her, Tony.
Yeah, and I thought it was great that Simone came in with the comment that she said Jess had only been out of the house for less than 3 hours, and Tony
Yeah.
had already moved on. So, yeah, just classic Tony.
Yeah, that's Tony. And then the next day at the dinner table or the breakfast table, the guys are talking about what happened last night. And they're like, "You guys hear Tony smash Ashley?" And Jamie, who, I don't know, he smashed Ashley on the first night, was like, "I could really care less at this point. I think he's realized she's a whore, and there's nothing he can really do to control her." We can move on to the challenge now. One thing I thought was pretty interesting, at the beginning of this challenge, TJ Lavin walks up with a Muhammad Ali shirt. Um, Another kind of interesting point, seeing that Muhammad Ali just died. I don't know if TJ Lavin can see into the future. He's that kind of, genius savant, but it was perfect timing for that shirt and to wear the shirt in the episode that debuted right after his death. Kind of crazy in my mind. Are you frozen?
Sorry, you just froze on me there for a second.
Oh, what's the last thing you heard?
You just said, I just heard you say that TJ's shirt, it was unbelievable that he was wearing the Ali shirt.
Yeah, we can just pick up from there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was crazy. I had to do a double take, and I sort of thought to myself, holy shit, like, what are the coincidences here that he's wearing an Ali shirt? And then, the next time they showed him, I had to make sure that it was. And, that was just, I put it down in my notes that it's just unbelievably ironic. It's the only thing that I could think of, that he comes out wearing an Ali shirt just days after he passes away.
Yeah, something mystical is going on with TJ Lavin. I'm not sure if all of his concussions kind of gave him this ability to see into the future or something, but he doesn't seem like the type of guy to wear a Muhammad Ali shirt. So when he does, you take notice, and he wore it the episode that debuted right after the Ali death. So we should keep our eye on TJ Lavin. He may have be the male version of Biff's sports book from Back to the Future. He can just look into the future and just know what's going to happen, which is pretty scary.
Yeah, something for the viewers to keep their eye on going forward. Now you're going to have to keep note of TJ shirts from now on.
Yeah, I thought the challenge in itself was a great one. It kind of had every element that a good MTV The Challenge competition has. It kind of reminded me of a final challenge in a smaller sense. It contained a puzzle. They had to eat something disgusting. They had to do something embarrassing. They had to, carry some heavy things and do some, weird skill. But we can start off with, leg one of the competition. So they had to finish. I think there was five different things that they had to do, and they had to, while doing it, after they completed it, they had to walk their token up all these huge steps, which obviously tired them out, and then they had to run back down and do the next leg. The first leg, though, everyone had trouble with. They had to either eat, if it was a cow's balls or and then a pig brain. They had to choose one or the other, and it seemed like most teams went for the brain, and people were just, you know, puking all over the place, and people ended up with puke all over their face for the whole challenge.
Yeah, just absolutely disgusting. I mean, whenever they show these eating challenges, I sort of get queasy myself, and I can't imagine having to do that. They mentioned the heat a lot throughout that challenge, so I can't imagine how that must have been trying to be out there in, probably 100-degree weather with, the smell of what they're trying to eat and trying to put that down. Um, that's something that, I wouldn't be able to do, but well, I say I wouldn't be able to do it, but when all the money's on the line, you just got to sort of force yourself to do it. But also, there, Thomas had a great burn on Simone when he said, "Don't act like you've never had balls in your mouth before."
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. But
Thomas is a sneaky good guy for one-liners. I think he described the challenge perfectly. He's like, it's eating. Think of it as eating something you already threw up a second time. That's pretty much what it seemed like. I think I would have eaten the balls because the brain seemed a little watery, and I'm more of a guy who will throw up something that because of the texture more than the taste. And I think the balls were a little more solid. But I probably would have puked eating either of those things because I'm not a crazy person like these people.
yeah, I definitely would have puked myself, and I have to agree with you there. Definitely would have gone balls myself there. The brain, I mean, they're both absolutely disgusting, but yeah, the brains, I mean, just you could tell there was just some definitely weird sort of texture going on with that, and that would have been pretty to try to tape down.
Yeah, so Jamie and Kellyanne, they jumped out to an early lead, and then they quickly lost that lead when they got to the second leg, and you had to lasso a 150-pound kind of barrel, or you had to throw rocks onto the surface that was about maybe 15 feet out. I thought it was pretty obvious the rock was the easiest part. It was like Devin said, it was just like beer pong. You just kind of flip it up, or like quarters. You just flip it up and let it land on the barrel. And the teams that chose to do the rocks moved through the challenge a lot quicker. Jamie and Kellyanne, they ended up last after, you know, he had a great line. He's like, "I'm from Massachusetts. I don't know how to lasso anything." So he kind of was worthless in that. Felt bad. What do you think about that part of the challenge?
Yeah, it just seemed like a no-brainer to go with the rocks there, and like Jamie says, he's from Massachusetts. He doesn't know how to lasso. It's like you don't want to fuck around with that. That's it's pretty obvious that's going to be the more challenging of the two, and tossing rocks, nobody had a problem with that. So, I mean, yeah, he just fucked himself when he decided to go lasso there. In hindsight, rocks was definitely the easier challenge, and I mean, I would have definitely picked rocks myself. I mean, not too many people would have done lasso there, and it ended up biting him in the ass.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never understood. I wouldn't even know how to throw a lasso to even get it to hook onto something. But you know, picked lasso and they did it quicker than Jamie and Kellyanne. I don't know if they were just doing it wrong or I don't really know lasso aficionado. So the leg three of the challenge was more of the physically demanding part of the challenge. It either had to flip a queen size mattress up all these steps or kind of roll 5 tires up and down the steps. I thought this was pretty even. I think I would have taken the mattress just because it's more of a solid one thing that you can kind of just keep pushing and pushing. But a lot of teams seem to pick the tires, which I thought was interesting. Yes, they weigh less, but you have to roll it and they roll away. When the mattress is, you can just kind of flip it like a big tire almost.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said you would go mattress. Just I was thinking that I would go tire, but I think a lot of it would depend on your partner too. Because if you had a useless partner, that could be really tough to get the mattress. If your partner wasn't going to be carrying their weight, at least with the tires, I thought that there was a lot of rolling of the tires going on, and so if your partner wasn't able to carry their weight, is sort of a little bit easier to move them along, even though there was more of them to try to keep track of. Um, I was thinking that I forget what team it was, but I saw one of the guys had a tire on each arm, then he was sort of pushing the other one along, which was a good strategy there.
Yeah, and then in true Vince and Jenna form, they chose to do the mattress, but they picked up the wrong mattress, so they had to do the whole thing over again by taking their own mattress. But we saw that coming with Vince and Jenna. They were just going to make a mistake in one of these challenges that cost them because they're both, an IQ combined of under 50, I'd say. And Vince shows how stupid he is later in the episode, but we'll get to that. Leg four, the challenge was a puzzle, which both of the options were pretty easy, I thought, but I think the bridge was a little easier just because it's more of a linear thing. And most of the teams blew through that, just showing you how easy the puzzle is because all these people are, barely college educated, if that.
Yeah, for once they threw a really easy puzzle in there. Usually teams get hung up on those puzzles, and you know it shows that I said last week puzzles are the great equalizer. But I mean, this one, yeah, was super simple, so it didn't really matter whether you picked bridge or house. It was pretty simple to fly through both of those.
Yeah, so I think this was a good challenge to see who will be good in the final challenge because you need you need people that can eat disgusting stuff. You need endurance. You need puzzle doing. So we also saw Kellyanne. She almost had a mental breakdown. She she's like, it's so hot out. I'm gonna have a panic attack. And Jamie was just like, he's so true to form. He's just like, I think I'm just watching Kellyanne go insane out here. I thought Kellyanne was just gonna have a panic attack, and I thought we were gonna have something, real awkward on our hands to watch.
Yeah, she was heading for a big time meltdown there, and that's what the heat will do to you when you're out there. I mean, she was stressing out because they fucked up the challenge, and then you got the heat and the pressure, and she was just losing it. Luckily for their team, she sort of regained her composure and didn't go too crazy. But I definitely thought that she was about to have a major meltdown out there.
Yeah, one of the developing stories from the challenge was Nate and Christina lost their third token. They couldn't find it on the course. That'll come up big later because that actually DQ'd them, so they ended up coming in last, no matter what order everyone finished in. But there was the fifth leg of the challenge was, I think it was a pretty easy choice. You either had to eat a full birthday cake or finish the challenge naked. And in true challenge and real world form, I think every team finished naked. That was the way easier choice after all they've been through in that challenge.
Yeah, definitely a no-brainer there. I can't imagine trying to. They showed the cake too. It looked like it was a pretty good-sized birthday cake. It wasn't
Yeah,
like one of
full size.
those. Yeah, that was the big one. So, I mean, you already got either balls or brains down your stomach, and you can't be piling up that cake on top of it. So that was the easy choice to go naked.
Yeah, and I think Wes was kind of throwing shots at Banana's body. You call him a rotting banana, but when Wes came up, he was looking pale and a little bit chunky, which us redheads usually do. So I don't think he can be thrown out heat like that when he with what he's working with. Something impressive.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. West too, he made that comment that he had to be concerned that his balls were going to get burned during that little run there.
Yeah, yeah. It seemed like everyone was just covering their balls, and the girls were covering their, vaginas and boobs. Which, I guess that was a smart thing to do. I thought that was illegal because you had to be naked. But, to each their own. We couldn't see it on TV anyways. They blurred it out, so it didn't really matter to us. But Bananas and Sarah ended up winning the challenge, which was a good showing for them. They're probably the strongest team, and they really put a obstacle down that they're probably the team to beat going forward. Nate Christina obviously DQ'd, so they ended up last. So, in their minds, they're going into the jungle just because they couldn't find their token, which no team fessed up to stealing. Which we find out one team actually did, pick up their token and throw it away. Do you think you would have admitted to it if you did it?
No, I can't say that I would have admitted to it. I wouldn't have said anything and hoped that I just sort of flew under the radar. But I mean, the production team wasn't going to let that one slide. They went back and reviewed the film like it was an NFL game, and they uncovered the truth of what happened.
Yeah.
If I was in that situation, no, I wouldn't have said anything in the heat of the moment there. As I was watching it live, I thought to myself, "Chuck up, Christina. Nobody cheated. Take the loss." And so I was pretty surprised that they actually did reveal something.
Yeah, no one respects Nate and Christina, so everyone was like, "You guys probably fucked it up. It wasn't anyone else's fault." They're both like little rats in my mind. They just yell with these squeaky voices. I'm just like, "Shut the fuck up." Um, but we had one of those classic dinners again for the winner, and Sarah and Bananas almost had this like little emotional moment where Sarah ended up bawling in her interview. She, I think it was two challenges ago, she threw Johnny Bananas in and kind of ruined their friendship. And Bananas is asking for an apology. It's like, it's the challenge. If you think this is real life, like, you got another thing coming. These aren't your real friends. Everyone's here to make money. If you think these are your real friends, you don't really understand what a friend is, I think.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that Bananas is still, up until this point, he was still butthurt about something that happened 2 seasons ago. And, I mean, he's a guy who definitely would have done the same thing as her. And we're talking about winning life-changing money or, voting him in. And, I mean, I'm surprised that he held that grudge for as long as he did. Now that he was able to forgive her and they're over it, I mean, team to beat definitely, because they prove that they're both top tier competitors, but now they're going to be working well together, and they don't have that sort of hatred that some of the other teams have now, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so Johnny and Sarah called down two Are You the One teams that would be easy to throw in. They called down Nelson and Amanda and Devin and Cheyenne. And, in true Are You the One form, they both cut a deal with Bananas to say that if they ever win, they won't throw them in. But, we all know that Bananas will throw them in the second he has the chance when it fits his need. And I thought it was weird how Cheyenne was kind of just like, yeah, we know we're not athletic. We know we're probably not going to win. Like, who the fuck says that on the challenge? Like, you should come to win. Otherwise, you have no shot.
Yeah, it just proves how bad these Are You the One teams are. I mean, they don't even know. They can't even say the right time. As far as the alliances go, Bananas is somebody I definitely wouldn't trust. But being a rookie and when you're in that spot, it's something that you have to do. Probably knowing that later on it's going to come back to bite you in the ass, because Bananas won't give a shit about any alliance that he's made with you.
Yeah, so kind kind of ends the dinner, and then they're all chilling, almost playing beer pong. It seemed like, and Thomas and Vince get into a shouting match across the beer pong table, and it brought me back to my high school and college days when people would argue about elbows and stuff, and there would be people yelling across the table at each other. And Thomas had a great line. He called Vince a bully, the kind that would in fourth grade would just give kids wedgies. And I think Vince literally is that. He's like Biff from Back to the Future. He's like any bully from any movie. He's just the airhead who, tries to use his size to intimidate people. And Thomas, to his credit, wasn't really intimidated. And Vince points at him and said, "If you call me a bitch one more time, I'm going to come over there and fold you like a table." And Thomas obviously says, "You're a bitch." So Vince starts running at him around the table. And Thomas runs away, but Vince gets, I don't even know what it was, like a little tackle on him into the chair, and then it kind of got broke up. What do you think about that little scuffle?
Absolutely pathetic from Vince. I mean, it's just laughable because I was thinking as he was doing that, like this guy actually tried out for an NFL team, and he couldn't even. There was no form tackle there at all. It was more like he had sort of hugged him into the table. So I give Thomas props for not backing down from him. It was great that he wasn't afraid to call him a bitch one more time. And I mean, Vince is just pathetic. God, I mean, I was laughing when he sort of just basically hugged him into the table. It was so weak.
Yeah, it really makes it clear why he didn't make an NFL roster. But then cousin Johnny Bananas comes in and starts, arguing on Vince's behalf, calling Thomas a bitch. And I know Johnny's probably close with his cousin, but if my cousin's acting like an asshole and being a dick, I would just be like, dude, it's not worth it. Vince seems so insecure. Someone's calling him a bitch across the table, and he's literally just like raging inside when he could really squash Thomas if he wanted to. But it was just a weird fight because Thomas is way smarter than Vince, but Vince is way stronger than Thomas. So it was kind of a fair match in that, right? Thomas kind of played the mental game while Vince, all he knows is physical. So he just ran at him like a bull seeing red. But that got squashed pretty quickly. But, Jenna thought maybe, they'd end up going home because of that little altercation. So we get the nomination ceremony. TJ gives out a warning to Vince, which I'm sure Vince has gotten a lot, whether it's in middle school or, elementary school. I'm sure he's gotten a lot of warnings from his teachers for trying to bully kids. But, TJ Lavin has to set the ground rules. He has to know what's accepted and what's not. And I think Vince knows that one more even little push or shove and he's gone.
Yeah, that's Vince the bully there, getting his way. I think that what's happening here is just Vince is, he said something to Bananas like they're challenging my manhood, and he's like, bro, they're just fucking with you, like he's got to realize that he's got to take a moment to think like it's not worth it to physically go after these guys. Whatever. Just if I was him, I just let the guys talk all night long because it's not going to be worth it to get sent home. And knowing how the challenge operates, I wouldn't have been shocked if they sent him home even for that little love tap that he gave Thomas. So now that he's got a warning, he's got to be on his best behavior for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't send Vince home. I think that sets a bad precedent when you're going to send someone home for something that pathetic, like you mentioned. But TJ goes back to the tape. I can just picture him in the film room, just trying to break everything down, trying to see where the token was lost. And it comes to find out that Camilla picked up Nate and Christina's token and thought it was hers, and she put it in her shirt for 2 or 3 steps, and then she realized it wasn't hers, and she just threw it on the ground. So Nate and Christina get saved here, and Tony and Camilla, after stealing the token, get thrown into the jungle. And Camilla was not happy. She threw a hissy fit almost. I think she's one of the oldest people in the challenge. She's probably maybe in her late 20s, early 30s, and she threw a hissy fit like a little 2-year-old, which I thought was pretty immature, while Tony, who's usually the immature one, was just like, all right, we just see who we face and we'll come out on top. I just thought it was pretty interesting how she reacted to that. Like almost she was scared to go in this early.
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe that I got too, that she was scared, she was nervous. She obviously didn't think that the truth was going to come out, and maybe it was almost like, maybe embarrassment or guilt too. Um, basically she was guilty and she immediately went to the excuses. But yeah, that little mini temper tantrum was insane, and uh, she was very, very nervous. It seemed to go in, and luckily for her team, Tony had a cool head, and he just said, "Look, if we're going to go in, we're going to do our best, and we're going to come
Yeah.
back."
So
But
go on.
I was just going to say, like, yeah, just absolutely, absolutely ridiculous temper tantrum there from Camilla, acting like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, she has a little temper on her, which I don't really like to see in girls, especially someone that old. She should be acting mature, but it is the challenge. These people aren't model citizens. But after Tony and Camilla get sent in, Johnny and Sarah have to send in their two teams. They send in Wes and Nani. Obviously, what just taking a shot at Wes early, the two veteran rivals, and then they send in Thomas and Simone, who both been in their you know set of fights. The most recent, obviously, Thomas and Vince, so that may be why Johnny sent them in because Thomas got in an altercation with his cousin. Um, I thought we were set for a nice little jungle to end the episode, but right before the last sequence, they showed Thomas on the phone talking to his girlfriend. She says, "Yeah, I'm going to the emergency room," and then it goes to commercial, and I'm like, "Fuck, we're not going to end up with another jungle. Something's going to happen, and Thomas and Simone are going to go home." And true to form, we get to the jungle. Thomas and Simone are not dressed in their Under Armour clad gear, and they say that they're going home. Thomas's girlfriend's really sick, I guess. I was pretty surprised how Simone was pretty cool with the whole thing because she's kind of been outspoken the whole season, but maybe she's, grown to like Thomas as a partner or something.
Yeah, that was a surprise that she didn't, really lose her cool over that. But um, I knew it was going to be bad news as soon as they went to the phone. We mentioned it in an earlier podcast that they've been sort of maybe using fake phone calls or something during the season, and I knew when they went over to the phone, it was going to be something big was going on. And unfortunately for Thomas, I mean, it sucks that he had to go home under those circumstances, but yeah, that's a tough situation for him to be in. Uh, he definitely got himself in that situation by going after Vince and then getting in Banana's face as well. But um, it just sucks that again we lost another team without having any sort of challenge. This has got to be setting a record now for the number of teams going home unrelated to challenges.
Yeah, I just think it's almost too weird how when he gets sent into the jungle, his girlfriend all of a sudden gets sick, only because the two teams that they were going to go against are Camilla and Tony, who are, both electric characters, and you have, who was the other team? You had Wes and Nani, who are, two of the most recognizable faces on the show. So I don't know. I'm sure his girlfriend's sick, but it was weird timing to me, almost staged that they didn't want any of these teams to go home because they know if these teams get eliminated and there's still only the one teams left that not a lot of people will tune in. But we still had a chance for a jungle. Wes and Nani had to pick. If they picked two white skulls from the four skulls, one of them being black, obviously they would be safe, and they wouldn't have to go against Camilla and Tony since we already had Thomas and Simone get home. And obviously in this season, um, we missed another jungle. Nani and Wes both pulled white skulls, and everyone was safe again without having to compete, which I'm sure it pissed TJ off as much as it pissed me off.
Yeah, it definitely pissed the viewers off. I'm sure TJ was mad. I wouldn't put it past the producers to sneaky put all white skulls in there so there wouldn't be a challenge
Yeah,
once they,
I was
yeah,
thinking
once,
the same exact thing.
yeah,
They don't want these teams to go home,
yeah,
and we've seen the producers try to stage stuff already.
that's definitely something to think about. Already have Simone and Thomas going home. They don't want another team, any of those power teams going in. And so, just something to think about. Don't put it past them that there wasn't actually a black skull in there tonight.
Yeah. So that about wraps up the episode. Next week's episode looks like a doozy again. This was a better episode. I think we're once we get less and less teams, the episode's going to get better and better. It looks like we have a good challenge, a night going out, and hopefully a jungle at the end. This episode would have been, I think, really well done if it had a jungle at the end, which we obviously missed out on again. But next episode looks like Devin and Corey get into it almost out at the club, almost goes to blows. So maybe we could have another team sent home early, which would keep us out of from another jungle. So I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, that definitely looks like it's going to be a very interesting confrontation next week. And I think that this episode was sort of the jumping off point for what looks to be like the show getting back to its roots. And hopefully it's, all great episodes from here on out. I mean, the way it's going, though, teams are dropping like flies. Hopefully, the next team that goes home is the result of a jungle.
Yeah, and in other podcast news, Steve's in contact with Tony's people, Tony's guy, and we're gonna try to get him on the podcast at some point this season. Next episode, it looks like he has a little outburst of himself. It looks like he smashes a bunch of eggs on the table when he argues with Camilla. So obviously Tony's always in the center of the drama and whatnot. So he'd be a great get if we could get him on the podcast. I literally have a million questions for him. We'll see how that goes, though.
Yeah, that would be great if we can end up landing him. So, viewers, just stay tuned. We'll let you know when he's going to be on, and hopefully he joins us because just like you, I have so many things I want to ask him. And, I mean, he's going to be, just like he is on the show, he'll be electric on the podcast.
Yeah, I started following on him on Instagram, and I think he has a girlfriend or he has a kid with a woman. I'm pretty sure he's dating her or he's married to her. And then I see him on the show. I think he's already fucked 2 or 3 girls. So I'm not sure what that situation is, but maybe he's in an open relationship. I'm not really sure. It's Tony though, so I don't know.
Yeah, basically, I did a little bit of research today at work. He has one kid with the girl Madison, who he hooked up with on his season of The Real World. Since they had a kid together, they've broken up. He went back to his old high school sweetheart or whatever they were. Now she's pregnant, so he's going to have another kid.
So Tony needs this money. That's what that's telling me. He
Yeah.
needs the money, and he needs every appearance he can get. And this podcast would be a great jumping off point for that. So, Tony, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on, and hopefully we can help you support You got 2 kids on the way from 2 different wives, so that will be interesting. 2 different women, I mean.
Yeah, we can't wait to get him to sit down with us because he's going to have a lot of interesting things to say.
Yeah, hopefully he'll spill the beans. But I think that's all we got for this episode. So if you got anything else, Steve, I'm done.
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. See everyone next week.
See ya.